Hi everyone and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian and I am streaming live from Budapest, Hungary. Hope everybody is doing great. Hi Parth, good to see a member early on in class. Hi Pachu, good to see you as usual. Hi Pradeep. Hi Levan Voon, good to see many students. All right, so today we are looking at IELTS reading strategy. We'll look at some true, false, not given, and some other question types. And the materials, as usual, coming from our world-class IELTS preparation websites where we help you to get ready and get high band scores for IELTS. So for academic IELTS, visit us at aehelp.com. And for general IELTS, visit us at gieltshelp.com. All right. So we usually have these live stream classes for everybody on our YouTube channel from Wednesday all the way to Saturday, 15 to 16 o'clock Central European time. In case you're wondering, if you ever have questions about our products or IELTS, please do email me. My name, Adrian, Adrian, at aehelp.com. That's academicenglishhelp.com. All right, let's take a look at our reading passage of the day. This is coming from our second exam book. You can get our exam books on our websites in PDF, electronic format, or from your Amazon bookstore. This is passage 2, as you can see here, and this is our exam book number 2. It is very, very similar in difficulty and level to the official IELTS or to the Cambridge exams. All right, everyone, let's get into some reading. So you open up the reading portion of your sit-down exam. You're looking at this passage. What should you do? What should you do? What should be your first step, even before you begin reading these wonderful paragraphs? What do you need to do to give yourself a chance to get a high score, understand the text as much as possible? Danica says, read the questions. Danica, you're partially right. You read some questions, but you should take a step before you even read the questions, okay? There's one step before that. And Pradeep says, understand the topic. Majid says, visualization. Absolutely. Understanding the topic, visualization are very important. How do you do that? You read the title. Skimming and scanning is not a good technique. I saw a couple people say that. You read the title, okay, even before you read the question. So if you start looking at the questions right away, that might actually become confusing if you haven't really understood what you are going to read, all right? So the first step you should do is read earthquake preparedness. Now, when you have something like this, earthquake preparedness, right away, visualize, as one student cleverly said, and think about what these mean, okay, these words. Think about what they mean individually on their own, and what do they mean when they're paired up. So what is an earthquake? Armandeep says, well, it means getting ready for an earthquake. Now, the faster you're able to think, the faster you're able to brainstorm, it means collect ideas on the topic and the controlling idea, the better you will do, all right? So what is an earthquake? And I see somebody says, well, it's the earth shaking, all right? It's the shaking of the earth. Sure, in its most simple or basic form, an earthquake is when the ground underneath our feet is moving. Hi, Seema Sahota. Good to see you in class. Haven't seen you in a while. Hope everything's going great. Jasvir says it's a natural disaster. Yes, sure. That's true. Why does it happen? So why does an earthquake happen? So now we know what it is. The earth is moving, the ground moves, there's maybe volcanoes, tsunamis, big waves, massive destruction, right? Buildings falling down and so forth. John Prester says, yeah, very good. Says there's friction of the plates or sudden movement of the continental plates. So the surface of our planet is made up of different plates, just like your dinner plates that you eat from. Same word. But they're much, much bigger than your dinner plates. And they suddenly move or shift or rub against each other, some kind of a friction. And those, that's right, pre-T, you know, those tectonic plates, when they're moving, they cause friction and movement of the earth, and the ground shakes. Sure. Now, if you're quick and clever and you have some good information about earthquakes, you might be able to think of even more details. What does preparedness mean with earthquakes? So what does it mean to be prepared for an earthquake? How can you be prepared for an earthquake? What can you do? Okay, so obviously that is the controlling idea of this passage. What can you do to be prepared for an earthquake? And this is great information, whether for IELTS or for survival skills for life. Oman Sharopov says, well, you could predict earthquakes. So getting seismic readings, getting ready to know when they're going to happen so that we can move populations. Absolutely. So prediction is one way to be prepared. Jasveer says, controlling the effects of earthquakes. Yes, that's possible. Sure. If you have buildings that are put onto springs or built with special materials so that they don't crumble or fall as easily, is one way to control the effects of earthquakes. Absolutely. Mr. Singh says, getting ready with supplies like petrol, food, lighters, water. Absolutely. So all of those are ways to be prepared for earthquakes. Suraj says moving into open space. So getting away from falling dangerous objects. Great. Okay, so some brilliant ideas, students. The more of these ideas you collect before you begin reading, the better you will read, the better you will understand, the better you will answer questions. Perfect. So always start with the title. Think of what, why, how. Use as much information from your knowledge as possible to think of some good ideas. And then have a look at the questions. So here we have no list of headings, questions, so that's okay. We'll do that another day. And then here we have some yes, no, not given questions. Yes, no, not given are very similar to true, false, not given. What should we do with these questions? Should we read them now? Should we read these yes, no, not given questions? Is that a good idea? Let's see how many students are paying attention to previous lessons. Biju and Preeti both agree, and Begzad is also in agreement. No, it's not a good idea to read. Yeah, no, they're not good questions to read. Why? Because it contains false information. It contains information that's not given. So if you read that information, you will confuse yourself, especially if you do it before the passage, because when you read it after the passage, you will not remember whether you read it in the passage or you read it just here before. So don't read these, okay? Don't read basically the simple idea for a lot of students who don't know this strategy is don't read questions that have false or extra information before the passage, because it can get very confusing for your brain. Brains are not linear machines. They think in multiple directions. So keep that in mind. Okay, so we don't read those ones. Questions 18 to 21, complete each sentence with the correct ending. So this is a sentence completion question. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 sentence beginnings. And then here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sentence endings. Should we read the questions here and the endings? What should we do? Okay, and if you're paying attention to what I just said, Begzod, you're right. Just read the 4 question beginnings. This is definitely in the passage somewhere, maybe paraphrased, likely paraphrased, said another way. But from these, 3 of the 4 are definitely wrong. Not in the passage, maybe. We don't know which ones they are, so we will leave this part for after the passage. So just read these. The first step after waiting out aftershocks is to. Poor construction results in buildings that offer. Even otherwise well-constructed buildings may be at risk because they. Buildings along the west coast of North America and Japan are designed to. Okay? All right. Now, here we have our last question, 22 to 26. This is a summary or paragraph completion type question. It's paraphrased from the passage. These ones are great to quickly read before you look at the passage because they give you a different way to understand the passage. So practice that before the IELTS and definitely during the IELTS. Quickly read this as well. So earthquake planning. Read with me, nice and loud. So this is a reading class. Read with me aloud, okay? Practice the muscles of the jaw. And listen to yourself read. So nice and loud, okay? It's a loud reading when you're getting ready for IELTS is a very, very important practice. All right, so earthquake planning. Planning is incredibly important for surviving an earthquake. They must make sure in advance that they have appropriate to survive after the event. Is the most critical resource after an earthquake, since municipal resources may be damaged and unavailable. Conversely, will be less scarce because it is less likely to be compromised in an earthquake. Some measures to take in preparation for an earthquake include storing medical supplies in a safe place, not hanging picture frames above your bed, and identifying in your home and workplace. In the event of an earthquake, try to call for help using your phone, or if you're trapped, try on a pipe. Okay? So there you go. Just read it nice and comfortable. A lot of students think 20 minutes is not enough time for reading. If you practice the right strategies at home, and you have a decent level of English reading fluency and comprehension, 20 minutes is lots of time for reading. Okay, so we looked at the questions. We have a clear idea of what we need to do after the passage. Now let's go back and read this passage together. Okay, so let's read the paragraphs. For each paragraph, focus on what it's about, focus on the structure of the information. This is just some fluency and comprehension practice, okay? So we'll go through it after together and answer questions together. For now, work on your pronunciation, your fluency, and read aloud. Hopefully everybody's ready. So one of the nice features that we have on our website is we have audio for all of our reading passages. So this is our general IELTS website. We won't use that today because general IELTS reading is different. This is from academic. So this is your academic IELTS account at aehelp.com. You log in at the top to your My Student account. When you log in to your My Student account, you can use this on your phone or your tablet as well. We'll resize. When you log into your My Student account, you have a lot of beautiful resources from us, including an interactive course, interactive practice tests, and then, of course, you have all of the CDs, all of the audio for the listening sections, the reading, and the speaking. So now, for those of you that have it, when you open up the IELTS Audio CDs tab, I know it's very bright because I'm adjusted for the dark background. This will be CD number 5 because it's exam number 5, and it will be reading passage 2. So that's track number 6. Everybody's ready? Then here we go with this reading.
Why do tortoises live so long?
Just a moment.
Tortoises are some of the long...
Earthquake preparedness. Of all natural disasters, earthquakes are likely to be the most devastating. Though earthquakes, most of the time, are only weak tremors which are not even strong enough to knock picture frames off walls, at their strongest, earthquakes can destroy entire cities, killing thousands and displacing millions. For regions of the world affected by earthquakes, being prepared for the big one is crucial to surviving when it eventually occurs. Earthquake preparedness takes 3 forms: education, construction, and planning. Those who grow up in earthquake zones are very familiar with so-called earthquake drills. These exercises take place multiple times each year in school, and students practice the appropriate steps to take in the event of an earthquake. The first step is to take shelter under a strong structure. In school, this is often a wooden desk. In the absence of such furniture, a door frame is recommended, as this is the strongest structural part of any room. Next, drop to the ground, cover your head and neck, and only move if there is a safer place to seek shelter within short crawling distance. Keeping your head and neck covered are of critical importance, since falling hazards are one of the biggest dangers in an earthquake. Once the shaking has stopped, people are advised to wait for any aftershocks to occur. Many deaths and injuries occur during aftershocks, smaller earthquakes which occur shortly after the initial quake. So staying sheltered is recommended for up to 10 minutes after the main event. Once sufficient time has passed, people should get to open ground, taking care to avoid falling hazards, especially glass structures such as windows. One of the biggest factors that affects the number of casualties in an earthquake event is the quality of the construction of buildings that people work and reside in. In areas with poor construction standards, these buildings provide little to no protection against earthquakes. In the major earthquake that occurred in Haiti in 2010, poor construction standards were to blame for a large proportion of the casualties. While other countries have higher standards, often these standards are not designed with earthquakes in mind. Many buildings may be built to an otherwise high safety standard, but be almost as defenseless as the Haitian buildings when facing a strong earthquake. In high-risk earthquake zones, all buildings must be constructed with an eye to earthquake preparedness. Buildings in areas such as Japan and the west coast of North America are constructed to shift a certain amount along with an earthquake. This elasticity allows the building to survive the quake. Instead of shaking and being knocked down, they are shaken and return to their original place. This type of construction greatly minimizes the risk to inhabitants in the event of a major earthquake. The final form of earthquake preparedness is planning. People in high-risk areas must have a plan for what to do in the event of an earthquake, and they must plan beforehand so they have appropriate supplies to survive in the initial days after the event. The most important resource after an earthquake is water, and it is recommended people keep enough water for a week, approximately 28 litres per person. Food will not usually be difficult to come by, but water, which relies on municipal delivery systems, which are very likely to be compromised by the quake, is precious. Other critical items such as medical supplies and personal documents should also be stored in a safe place so they can be retrieved after the event. Other measures which are useful to prepare for an earthquake are keeping a flashlight and whistle next to your bed, not hanging falling hazards such as picture frames over your bed, arranging a family contact person outside of your area, arranging a family meeting place, and identifying both hazards and refuge areas within your home, school, and workplace. In the event that you are trapped after an earthquake, do not struggle or kick up dust. Instead, try to make sounds such as blowing on a whistle or tapping on a pipe so that rescuers may locate you. If you have a mobile phone, use it to call or text for help. Earthquakes can be deadly. All the preparedness in the world will not help if a sufficiently large earthquake hits the wrong spot. What can be done, however, is to improve the chances of survival through education, appropriate construction, and diligent planning. Countless lives can be saved.
Okay, so that is the audio that goes with this reading to help you with your reading pronunciation, fluency, identifying words that might cause problems. And by the way, students, the speed that this reader is going over the text, it takes him about 6 minutes, maybe a little bit less, to read the text. That's great if you can read this speed for IELTS. If you can't, it's okay. Even if you read 25% slower, say in about 8 minutes for the passage, that's still fine, okay? To get band 6.5, 7, 7.5, you really need to read the text. Skimming and scanning will not work. It will be a frustrating strategy and you will not get the right scores, okay? So if you can read this speed, fantastic. If you read a little bit slower, that's okay. If you read much slower, then you need to work on increasing your reading fluency. And of course, we have strategies for that as well. All right, let's take a look at the questions. And before we look at the yes, no, not given strategy, just to check how many people are paying attention, what are the 3 parts of earthquake preparedness from the introduction? So the whole passage is structured on these 3 parts of being prepared for an earthquake. What are the 3 aspects of earthquake preparedness? So education and construction are 2 of them, Afsana. What's the third one? And this is where you really need comprehension. So if you're reading with what's called active reading, these should be easy, okay? Dakra says the third one's planning, okay? Yeah, absolutely. So education, construction, and planning. So those students that paid attention to that thesis statement of education, construction, planning, and then connected and visualized the paragraphs with those 3, because the essay is divided into those 3 parts, you should be able to answer these questions much, much better. So active, precise reading is a very, very important skill, okay? Sagar Kendall is looking for a speaking partner, so I just allowed your contact information there, Sadell. You can also find speaking partners on our website as well. Okay, let's look at these yes, no, not given questions. So here, you simply have to put a Y in your answer sheet if it's a yes and the statement agrees with the writer. Put an N in your answer sheet if the statement contradicts the writer, so it's the opposite of what the writer says. And then make sure to put a clear NG for not given if we are not able to tell what the writer is thinking about that fact, okay? Now, the strategy for yes, no, not given is pretty much the same as for true, false, not given. You're basically using computer logic, okay? So you're using computer logic to help you figure out these questions quickly and accurately. So before answering, you're actually asking some questions, and hopefully some students that have studied with me for a while knows what these questions are. So what's the first question that we ask when we look at a statement? So we look at number 14. Most earthquakes are strong enough to cause some damage. The first question that we ask is it important for the text or for this topic and controlling idea? That's right, Danica. So Danica Skepanovic, sorry if I'm not pronouncing that right, has the right idea. Yeah, so firstly, you want to ask, is this a statement that's going to be important for this text or this topic? So is it important to know how strong? The full question here, right, is it important to know? And practice asking the full question when you are preparing at home for IELTS. So is it important to know the strength of most earthquakes, right? Because here's most. So of most earthquakes for earthquake preparedness. Okay, so is it important? And Christine Dael says, yes, yeah, to be prepared, of course. So think in a simple way, right? If I'm trying to figure out how to prepare for this earthquake, is it important for me to know how strong an earthquake is going to be most of the time? Yes, absolutely. If you think about it in a different context, it's kind of like if I'm preparing for a trip, is it important to know how long most of those trips are going to be? If most of them are a day versus 10 days, then I will prepare differently than if they're all 10 days or longer, right? So preparing for an earthquake, it makes sense that we know the strength of most earthquakes, right? Of course it is. So very simple. So yes, it's important. So because we know that it's important, now we know what? So now we know that this statement is important for the topic. So what do we know then? What have we established or what have we figured out by identifying that number 14 is important for this text? What have we identified? What have we actually understood so far? Well, we don't know that it's given yet. Or, well, we know that it's given, yes. So Hanadi Russell says, well, we know that it's given. Yes, that's right. So we know that it's either a yes or a no. So, so far we know that this is a yes. So therefore, again, it's math or computer logic here. It's a yes or no. We know that it's given. It's not going to be a not given. Okay, so now we need to figure out whether it's a yes or a no. And so we have to think about whether or not we know the answer that it's a yes or a no. For that, you just need to ask yourself, is this true? Okay. Now again at home, practice the full sentence. So is it true that most earthquakes are strong enough to cause some damage? Do you think it's true that most earthquakes, so most of the time when the earth moves, it's strong enough to cause some damage? Okay, is that true? So a lot of you are saying, no, that's not true. And some of you are saying it's true. Okay, so most earthquakes, and if you know about earthquakes, then you probably do know that most earthquakes, we don't even feel them. Okay, so on the Richter scale, a 1 or a 2 or a 2.5, you don't even know what's happening. Okay, they're so tiny. So you won't really see the damage, you won't really see what's happening. So that's if you know about earthquakes. I come from the west coast of North America, Victoria, Vancouver region. I know a lot about earthquakes, and I can tell you that we do not feel most of the earthquakes that happen. They're deep in the ground, and they're not causing damage. So I know that the answer to this one is no. But let's say that you don't know that. Okay, so let's say, hey, Adrian, come on, I live in the middle of Europe. I have not a lot of information about earthquakes. We don't worry about them here, or the center of Africa. So what do I do? Well, usually the questions are coming in the order of the passage for yes, no, not given. So this is somewhere in the beginning of the passage. You want to look for strong. Okay, so earthquakes and strong. These are the two words that you want to look for if you have to search in the passage. And then you can go back and take a look. So somewhere in the beginning, there should be some information about the strength of earthquakes. Okay? So though earthquakes most of the time are only weak tremors, which are not even strong enough to knock picture frames off the wall. So there's your descriptive paraphrasing in this sentence. And now we know that we have the correct answer, that most earthquakes are just weak tremors that are not causing much damage. Okay? It's paraphrased, so you have to pay attention. It's there. Girls and guys, you do not want to be searching for every question. To get a band 7 on IELTS, how many questions should you answer without looking back at the text? This is a very important question. So, what do you think? What's that magical number? Or roughly, what is that? So how many of the questions, what percent of the questions should you answer without looking at the text? So there's 40 questions in the reading passage, and you should be able to answer, let's say about 25 to 30. Okay, so somewhere in the neighborhood of 60 to 70%. All right, if you're looking for a band 7, 7.5, you should be answering about 60 to 70%, about 25 to 30 of the questions without looking at the text, okay, just from your reading and from your comprehension. If you are searching for 40 out of 40 questions, and I don't want to scare some students here, because I know that's what some students do, is they're searching for every answer, you will run out of time, you will get really frustrated, your brain's going to become a jungle of a mess by the time you finish your reading section, and here's the added difficulty. If you're searching for every question's answer in the text, your brain will be so messed up by the time you finish the reading section, and it will be so tired that you are going to have a very difficult time in the writing section, collecting your ideas, getting good structure, getting good flow in your writing in your sentences. So that's why you don't want to do skimming, scanning for every question. It's just not a good way, okay? All right, let's keep rolling here, ladies and gents. So number 15, the strongest part of a room is furthest away from the windows that can shatter. So the strongest part of a room is farthest away from windows that can shatter. Is it important to know what the strongest part of the room is? Okay, so the first one's a no. Is this important to know? For being prepared for an earthquake, don't be quick. Okay, go through. Careful not to be very quick. The right question here is it important to know what the strongest part of the room is for earthquake preparedness? So, is it important to know what the strongest part of the room is for earthquake preparedness? And yeah, so a lot of you, Farheen, Kesey, and Preeti, great, 3 members in a row, they're saying, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's important to know that. Okay? All right, so is it true, according to the writer, that the strongest part of the room is furthest away from the windows that can shatter? Is that true? So is it true according to the writer? Samana says, no, it isn't. Afsana says, no, it isn't. Why not? Why isn't it true? Then let's ask this one. According to the writer, so this is the other logic. So watch the way that I'm using logic here, students. Another way to write it or ask it is, according to the writer, what is the strongest part of the room? Okay, so according to the writer, what is the strongest part of a room? And Afsana Afrin says, well, it's the door frame. Okay, the door frame is the strongest part of the room. So if you have a room, okay, and you have a door frame, then if you kind of sit in the door frame gives added strength to that room, okay? So according to the author, the door frame is the strongest part of the room. If I don't know the answer, and I think it's important, and I don't know if it's true or not, what should I look for? What are the words that I can look for in the passage if I have to? Obviously, I can't look for door frame because I don't know that's the answer, right? So what could I search for? Okay, what could I search for? Yeah, so very good. Afshana says, look, if you have to search, look for strongest and look for room, okay? Not necessarily part, but strongest and room. Those are the 2 words if you have to search, okay? So this one, my guess would be the answer is no, okay? Because the strongest part of the room is not necessarily what is furthest away from the windows that can shatter, but it is the door frame, according to the author, okay? All right, 16. Your head and neck are the weakest parts of your body and must be protected. Okay? Again, go through the steps. For earthquake preparedness, the full question here is, for earthquake preparedness, is it important to know whether or not the head and the neck are the weakest parts of the body? So earthquake preparedness, is it important to know whether or not our head and our neck are the weakest parts of our body? I would say no, it's not. Okay, this is a bit of a tricky one, and it takes practice. All right. So we don't know whether or not the neck and the head, in fact, we should know that the head and the neck are not the weakest parts of our body. Our neck and our head are actually very, very strong. Our skull, hopefully you got a good one. It's a very strong part of the body. Our neck is actually a very strong part of the body. It's not that they're weak, it's that they're vulnerable, right? So this is not given in the text. The text says that we have to protect our head and our neck, but it doesn't say anything about the neck and the head being the weakest parts of the body. So for this one, I would say the answer is not given. Okay? Does that make sense? We have to shelter and protect our head and our neck, but it's not because they're the weakest parts of the body. Okay? All right, number 17. Aftershocks are incredibly dangerous. Okay? Aftershocks are incredibly dangerous. Full question here. Is it important to know whether or not aftershocks are dangerous? So is this important to know? Okay? Once you feel confident with this strategy, you can just go important, and hopefully by the time you get to the IELTS exam, you have this level of confidence. Is it important? Yes, it's important. Good. So a lot of you are saying, yes, that's definitely important. Is it true? So aftershocks, those earthquakes that happen after the main earthquake, are those dangerous? Everything is loose, everything is shaken, everything's falling apart. Is it going to be dangerous to run around if there are some more little shocks and big pieces of stone and rock and bricks are falling and windows are falling? Yes, absolutely. Okay, so therefore the answer there is yes. Okay, so true, yes, so the answer is yes. So according to my logic and my best analysis of this text, the answers are no, no, not given, and yes. Okay, if you get 3 of 4, that's great. Okay, if you can get 3 of 4 correct, you're easily on path to a band 7.5. Now, this is why you do not read these questions before the passage, because 3 pieces of information here from the 4 seem to be very confusing. Okay? Asil Yat is asking, what if I didn't understand the question? What should I do? So, if I don't understand the question, aftershocks are incredibly dangerous. For example, what should I do? Well, step number 1 is leave it blank. Okay, don't forget about it, Asil. So just don't put the answer in, because maybe one of the questions after will help you figure out what this means. So if you have time at the end, you can come back. Now, when you come back and you still don't understand, so let's take that situation, Asil, where we go, okay, I don't understand this, so I'm going to leave it or solve the other questions. Maybe I will understand this question later from these questions or from looking back at the passage once or twice. And then you realize, I still don't understand this question. Well, in that case, just take a guess, okay? So you have a 33% chance of getting it right because you have basically 3 options: yes, no, not given. So just take a guess. And if you have a no, no, not given, your best guess might be a yes there. Okay? No guarantee, but probably. All right? Harvinder is asking, is it true that the questions might not be in sequence except for a summary? Harvinder, the questions are usually in the sequence of the passage, usually. Not all of them. List of headings, for example, not, of course. But a lot of them are. Yes, no, not given, or true, false, not given. They are in sequence of the passage. But when you have 4 questions like this, the sequence might be very tricky. So you can't search for all the answers. So here, question number 14 is coming from these first 2 lines. And then question number 15 doesn't actually appear until somewhere around here, much later on. And then 16 can come very quickly. And then 17 or 18 can be here at the very end. Okay, so they are in sequence, but the distance between the answers, where they're coming from, can vary a lot. So you definitely don't want to be searching for all your answers. I hope that makes sense, okay? All right. Students, doing great so far. Let's look at the next set of questions. Okay, so here we go. So this is the sentence completion. Now, sentence completion type questions you should try to do the same as multiple choice, which means because they are a kind of multiple choice. So here you have question 18 and you have 7 choices. Here you have question 19 and you have 6 choices. Why 6 choices? Because you eliminated 1 choice by finishing question 18. Then for 20, you have 5 choices, and for 21, you have 4 choices. So it's kind of like a complicated multiple choice type question. Okay. Now, for multiple choice type question, the best way to approach it is finish the sentence on your own. Okay, so finish it with your own ideas and then find the closest match. Okay, so that's the strategy here, is finish the sentence with your own thoughts then find the closest match. Okay, if it doesn't match, there's something wrong. We'll take a look at that in a second. So the first step after waiting out aftershocks is to, okay? So number 18, let's see how many of you are paying attention to the text and understanding some of it. The first step, so after the aftershock, so aftershocks are the little earthquakes that follow the big earthquake. After you've waited for those aftershocks to stop, what do? Megha and another student asked about question 15. We'll look at that when we look at the answer key at the end. Okay, so after we have waited for the aftershocks to be finished, not the earthquake, the aftershocks, what do? Afsana Afrin says, move to a safe place. Marwa says not to move. Danica says still don't move. I remember it differently. So I pictured it when I was visualizing what I was reading. I pictured that I was waiting in a safe place under a table or in a door frame and everything was shaking. And then after the main earthquake stopped, I stayed there. Then there were smaller earthquakes and there were pictures falling off the walls still and windows falling out. And then after everything stopped, then I looked around and I ran outside and found some open space. Okay? I remember being instructed to look for open, safe places after the aftershock. Okay? So I'm thinking move to open space. Some of you are thinking stay there, stay calm, don't move. Well, let's see if any of these match. Okay, not designed to withstand earthquakes, no. Leave the building and find open ground. Okay, that one matches with what I just said. A modicum of earthquake protection, no. Move in response to an earthquake, that does not make sense. Lack the flexibility that Haitian buildings have, that's wrong information, so I can cross that one out, okay, because we know that the Haitian buildings were not flexible. That's another strategy, eliminating false answers right away. Withstand earthquakes due to their rigid construction, little protection in earthquake. All right, well, I don't see any of them as stay calm or stay put. The only one that I feel matches is the leave the building and find open ground. So I'm going to go with B. So my answer for 18 is B. However, if you find that it doesn't match with what you're thinking, be very careful. Ask yourself why. Why am I thinking an answer that's not even there? Okay, you might need to reconsider. Number 19, poor construction results in buildings that offer what? So offer means give. Use your paraphrasing. So poor construction, so bad design, bad building. results in buildings or in skyscrapers or apartments that give what? So if the building is not built well, then what do they give? They give nothing, right? They don't give any help. They get damaged easier. If they get damaged easier, they give little protection, right? So very little protection, or maybe even no protection. They're just dangerous, okay? So let's see if any of these match. Offer are not designed to withstand earthquakes. This seems okay, but the grammar has to match, okay? So if I say are not withstand, so poor construction results in buildings that offer or withstand. Offer is a verb, so it cannot be followed by a verb, okay? This cannot be a verb. So that choice will not be correct, okay? Let me just erase this so you can see more clearly. One way that you can make sure you're choosing the correct answer here also to help you is look at correct grammar. Okay, look at correct grammar. So offer a modicum of earthquake protection. Okay, a modicum, I'm not sure what that means, so I'll leave that for now. Move in response, so offer, move in response. I can't because move is also a verb. So this is a maybe. This is no. This is no. This is no. Offer lack the flexibility that buildings have. This is no. The grammar doesn't make sense. Offer withstand earthquakes due to their rigid construction. Again, it's a verb, so no. Offer little protection in an earthquake. That one looks right. Begzad says, yeah, it's got to be G. Offer little protection in an earthquake. If I don't know what this means, I shouldn't choose it, especially if I know what this one means, little protection. And here I have an adjective noun that can definitely follow the verb offer. So I'm going to choose G in this case, okay? So notice the strategies that I used there. First of all, I thought about the answer on my own. So offer a dangerous situation, offer little protection, okay? So G there. And I went with an answer that I know looks correct, okay? Let's look at 20. Even otherwise well-constructed buildings may be at risk because they... So even a well-constructed building could be risky. Why? Well, because they might not be designed for earthquakes. That's how I would finish this sentence. So you can have a good building, but if it's not designed to move, if it's not designed to withstand an earthquake, yeah, Hamza says it might not be flexible enough, right? It's a good way to finish that sentence. So even when you have a building that's well built, if it's not designed to resist an earthquake, or if it's not designed flexible enough, it could still be a problem. Let's see if some sentences like that. So because they, so read the choices with these two words. Because they are not designed to withstand earthquakes, that works really well. So could be A. Could be some of the other ones. So because they lack the flexibility that Haitian buildings have, that's not true. Haitian buildings did not have flexibility, so we already know that that's a wrong answer. We already used that one. This one doesn't make sense. Because they move in response to an earthquake, that would be absolutely the opposite. So it cannot be. So it has to be A. Okay? So here the answer is A. Because they are not designed to withstand earthquakes. All right, 21. Buildings along the west coast of North America and Japan are designed to what? Finish that sentence. So buildings along the west coast of North America and Japan. North America and Japan, as many of you know, have lots of earthquakes. So they are designed to do what? Buildings in North America and Japan. They're designed to protect you. How? Marwa says they're designed to tolerate earthquakes, to withstand earthquakes. Yeah, Marwa, that is a good tip. So let's see. Quick search of the eyes reveals D, move in response to an earthquake. Absolutely. They are built to move with earthquakes. So D is the correct answer there. So B, G, A, and D. All right. On to the last question set. Again, fluency, logic, summary, completion. Complete on your own. Here we have choices. We want to look at these. Resource, food, clothing, tapping, safety, water, knock, hazards, supplies. If you didn't understand all of those, that is okay. Now let's read and fit these in. These kinds of questions should not take you long. This question should be fairly quick and simple. You should not have to search for the answers because the answers should make sense in context. Planning is incredibly important for surviving an earthquake. They must make sure in advance that they have appropriate what to survive the event. So something to survive the event. They have appropriate resource, food, clothing, tapping, safety, supplies, hazards, knock, and water. Which one do you think is the most sensible? They have what? So Begzad says it's H. It's supplies. That makes the most sense. Absolutely. They have appropriate supplies. Supplies includes water, food, cell phone, flashlight. So all of those together are your supplies. Resources, it's a little bit different. Resource could include water, but also like oil, gold, silver. Not really resources. Okay, so supplies to survive after the event. Something is, so noun, is the most critical resource after an earthquake. We have the word resource here, which also tells me that this is not resource. Okay. What is the most important after an earthquake? Begzad and Afsana and John all agree that it's water. I agree. Water is the most important. Water is B. Make sure in your answer key you don't write water. You'll get it wrong. You have to write the letter. Okay? So write the letter B. Okay? So water is the most important, which is the letter B. Water is the most critical. So if you chose water for this one, hopefully you figure out that it's water for this one. You only use one answer one time for this. Okay? So water is the most critical resource after an earthquake, since municipal sources may be damaged and unavailable. Conversely means the opposite. Something will be less scarce because it is less likely to be compromised. So less scarce, scarce means not enough. So less scarce, two negatives, actually means that there's more. What is more? Afsana says there will be more food. Yeah, because you still have all those grocery stores and supermarkets that are storing food. So after the earthquake, food will still be available. Sure. And food is C. Okay, so C, food. All right, so H, B, and then C. All right, so food will be less scarce because it is less likely to be compromised. Compromised in this case means destroyed or lost. Some measures to take in preparation for an earthquake include storing medical supplies. Here, let me bring this up a little bit now. All right. So some measures to take in preparation for an earthquake include storing medical supplies in a safe place, not hanging picture frames above your bed, and identifying in your home and workplace. What do you need to identify in your home and your workplace? Okay. Do you need to identify resources, food, clothing, tapping, safety, water knocking, hazards, or supplies? And many of you are saying, well, it's got to be hazards. Hazards. Hazards is the noun. Okay, this is a noun. A couple of you said safety. Safety is not a noun. Okay. It's an adjective. You can't have an adjective in this place, okay? You need a noun here. Identifying something in your home. That something is a noun, and it's hazards or dangers. Now, in your answer sheet, don't write hazards. You'll get it wrong. Write F, okay? So hazards. In the event of an earthquake, try to call for help using your phone. Or if you are trapped, so you can't get out, try something on a pipe. This preposition tells me that this has to be a verb. Okay? So we only have one verb in this set. That one verb is what? Yeah, it's tapping. Tapping. Okay? Knock is not. Okay? It's an ing form here. Yeah, knock could be a verb, but in this case, it's not useful. Tapping. Okay? Try tapping on a pipe. So G. Okay? Tap, tap, tap. So bing, 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 tapping that pipe. All right? That's how you do it. Okay, so that is how you move through the questions. Once you're done, so if you put the word knock in here, if you put D knock, read the sentence. Call for help using your phone, or if you're trapped, try knock on pipe. Try knock on pipe does not make grammatical sense. Try knocking on a pipe would be different, might work, but tapping is the better. Try tapping on a pipe. Okay, so ladies and gents, let's see how we did. All right, I'm no guru. I might not have all the answers for you. Let's see how we did here. Okay, so here's our answer sheet. And it's indicated as false, but it should be yes, no, not given. So number 14 is false, which is no, obviously. Number 15 is no. Number 16 is not given. And number 17 is yes. So that's correct. We got all of the answers correct there. So no, no, not given, yes. Be very careful about this. This is a mistake in the answer sheet. You cannot use F for a no. You have to use the letter N. Okay? All right. Let's look at those matching questions. So 18 was B. I think we got that correct. 19 was G. 20 was A. So far, so good. Okay. And then for 21, it was D. That was correct as well. 22H, 23B, 24C, 25F, and 26 is G. Okay, so I think that was a perfect score there. I think we got all those correct, so good job. remember those strategies. They kind of, I make them look sometimes a little bit more simple than they are. You have to practice them, okay? Knowing the strategies is only half the part. Practicing them and using them well is the other part, okay? Megha is asking for me to explain question 15 one more time, so I'll quickly jump back to that question, okay? Just so that it's very clear for all of you. All right, Megha, pay attention to question 15. So question 15 says, the strongest part of a room is furthest away from windows that can shatter. Is it important to know for this text what is the strongest part of the room in case of an earthquake? Yes, because that's where you need to go to give yourself a chance to survive. So I need to know what the strongest part of the room is. Is the strongest part of the room furthest away from the windows, according to the author? Remember, yes, no, not given. It's a little bit different than true, false, not given, because no means if the statement contradicts or is different from the claims of the writer or opposite to. Now, does the writer claim that the strongest part of the room is furthest from the windows? No, because the writer claims that the strongest part of the room is the door frame. Okay, so here the first step is to take shelter under a strong structure. In school, this is often a wood desk or wooden desk. In the absence of such furniture, a door frame is recommended, as this is the strongest structural part of any room. Now, a door frame could be far from the windows. It could be close to the windows. We don't know that. But according to the author, it is the strongest part of the room. The author does not say the strongest part of the room is furthest from the windows. Okay? So I hope that makes sense now, Megha. I hope that's clear. Okay? So because of that, the sentence contradicts the author, or does not say what the author says about the strongest part of the room. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you've done a great job. I know reading can be very challenging. That's why it's so important to read every day. When you're preparing for IELTS, you should be reading some text for about 45 minutes to an hour every day, and you should be doing active reading where you're testing your knowledge, you're checking your comprehension, what you understood from the reading. Build questions yourself if you don't have them, okay? Asil, good luck on your 19th exam for January. Make sure to check us out at ahelp.com. Give yourself a good chance to get high band scores on IELTS. Lots of great practice material and strategies there. gieltshelp.com for general IELTS, okay? So definitely check us out there and learn and practice the strategies. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. You've done an amazing job. Keep it up. Tomorrow we will be doing some more live IELTS. It will be listening practice. So we'll do some listening practice, get those ears sharpened up, and then on Sunday we'll have a members chat class. Have an awesome rest of your day, everyone. I wish you a good night's rest if it's late in your country, and hopefully you will have some nice dreams, get some motivation for the day ahead, wake up full of energy. Much love to all of you. Bye for now.